Oh, you guys. Hey, welcome back to part 2 of daily number 403, where we're talking about Grubby's Phoenix PvP opening. Right before we went to the break, we talked a little bit about this idea of forcing him away from certain strategies. There's no reason Real couldn't build a Colossus right now. He certainly has the ability to throw down a support bay, get a Colossus started, etc. But we know that if he does it too quickly, we automatically kill it. So suddenly fast Colossus is not something we're that worried about in our strategy. And as a result, this is going to dictate a lot of our transitions into the mid game. If we come to the Grubby cam, obviously our opponent has Blink Stalkers. He could be getting up and expand in a little bit. From our end, we're trying to get away without building too much of anything involving our gateways. We're just largely building Immortals. If our opponent expands, which as we'll find out he is going to be doing, then certainly he's going to have to be a little bit passive for some period of time. I just want to note one more thing. Even if your opponent has Blink, you can still do these sorts of sneaky things. Phoenixes can actually withstand a pretty good amount of punishment. And so far we've killed 11 workers, which is kind of a lot. I really think we should have more of a probe lead at this point, though. I think Grubby may have been just feeling slightly paranoid. And you can already see that in this count up here, we have a pretty substantial lead in terms of the food supply. We have a bigger army, we have more workers, etc. What makes this kind of always scary for our opponent is that they can't move out into the middle of the map, they can't get any information. Sure, Real might have Blink Stalkers, the most mobile thing, mobile ground unit that Protoss has, but you can't really go anywhere with it because these Phoenixes can come in from any angle at any time. So just the fact that Grubby can do this is huge. Just the fact that he does this means that he has complete freedom to see an attack coming and then shove out 2 more rounds of units. So let's talk about the direction that Grubby should go in. Should he begin going Void Ray? Probably not. The opponent has Blink Stalkers. Colossus, I don't think would be a terrible decision from Grubby. I don't like that as much because it's so immobile. It doesn't seem to align very well with this Phoenix play that we're doing. These Phoenixes buy us all this time, do all this amazing stuff, but Phoenixes don't, in my head, work as well with Colossi. I actually think that if we were going to go Colossi, we should have just built a Robo at the start and started to build Colossi. The Phoenixes, I think, would be a distraction from that. What are some other things? Blink Stalkers are another potential route that we could go along. I don't really like the idea of going Blink Stalkers at this point because, again, we could have just gone Robo, built this many Immortals. We could have just thrown down that many Immortals and then just gone for the Blink anyways. It feels like a slightly slower iteration. I think one of the reasons why you would want to go Blink is if your opponent had perhaps not taken this expansion and you were leery of doing too much tech work. But Grubby is going to get this Twilight Council up. And he's going to see this expansion. He's going to pick off some of these probers and all that good stuff. And then he's going to be going for Zealot Legs, which I think is a very, very clever opportunity that we don't normally get. Yeah, you see Blink was started and then canceled, and now there's the charge going down. We're going to see Grubby do this all the time. I think this is very, very slick. He's going to get up this super mega badass army of Zealots. We've already been building a good amount of Zealots at the start. Going to be getting upgrades. Look at this. Doing everything, really, but using these gateways. Every now and again, Grubby will use a gateway, but for the most part, he's just building stuff and upgrading stuff and continuing to be a big jerk with these Phoenixes. Now, Real is going to be an absolute genius and get himself Feedback Templar to pick off these Phoenixes, which is so cool. Which is such an unbelievably brilliant transition. I think Real, of all players I've seen, does the smartest job of holding off these Phoenix plays and then just kind of turning it into a normal game. I don't want you to think of Phoenixes as like the gimmick that gives you the free early win. But instead, think of it more as that map control thing, because even as Grubby has lost all the energy on his Phoenixes, It's going to regain pretty quickly, re-give him map control, and Grubby is suddenly taking himself a very, very, very early expand. And what do we see over from Real's point of view? I want to keep alternating back and forth to illustrate that Real does not have the same kind of flexibility that Grubby does. Real's sort of committed to getting some zealots up at the front because he just doesn't really know. He has to position his stalkers here. He has to forcibly leave these Templar back on the backside. And I mean, now he's starting to get some gateways up. But meanwhile, we see Grubby already has a lot of these gateways done, has already started +2 weapons. And of course has a lot of immortals. And a third base. I mean, it's just looking generally good for Grubby. I'm going to go ahead and speed through this game so that way we can hop into a game number 2 really quickly. We're going to see somewhat of a similar thing. You saw the Phoenixes step into action a little bit. Yeah, looking good. And let me also note that one of the great parts about Phoenixes is some of the tactics that you can do. Anytime you see some isolated sentries, you can just easily pick those off and break that point. And the fact that you can nab a couple units like this, we're going to see a lot more in the future. The mobility of these units, the Archons and the Zealots, plus the Phoenixes, gives us the chance to do these kind of pokes, while still having this third behind us. By the way, make sure you plant your gas geysers up early, like super early, because you definitely want to have as many Archons as humanly possible. And again, we might have some trouble if, say, you know, we're going for this big zealoting force and suddenly our opponent had a bunch of Colossi and killed us off. But we don't need to worry about that as much when we're building Phoenix, because can't get that many Colossi because he's spending all his gas on Stalkers. And if he does start spending a lot of gas on the Colossi, it's going to take him a while to get a good amount. So we can still comfortably get this third base up. I like this position that Grubby's in because it's so much about little pokes and prods, harassment, and then just building a ton of stuff. And then, as you might expect, as Grubby slowly gets more and more of an economically comfortable zone, he starts building fewer zealots and more stalkers. If he were stuck on 2 bases, really trying to get a third up, he'd be building more zealots because he really wants to seize control of the middle. Kind of like what we're seeing Real do. But as I speed it up, speeding it up, speeding it up, speeding it up, blah, 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 blah. I want to come to a point kind of like around here, right before this battle begins, to note, obviously, we have more Stalkers in Camp Grubby. Our Archons are going to function kind of like Colossi, in that they're going to burn through his Zealots really quickly. Grubby's going to win this battle, and we're going to end up winning the game. But I think it's so important to note that these 3 little Phoenixes that have just been sort of poking around a lot all game long gave us the opportunity to get this composition up, and this is a fairly hard composition to actually just go for. You don't actually really see a lot of players comfortably able to do that. But hey, the Phoenixes help us out quite a bit, getting an early third, getting us to that tech position. I'm going to load up one of these games that's in Grubby's amazing little replay pack here. Where is it? Where is it? I think it's... Damn it, where'd it go? I think it's against MTW Reen. Yeah, I found it. Yes, got it. Let's look at some more tactics. Tactics, tactics. Yeah. Plus, 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 plus. We're going to see kind of a similar look to this. But this is on the ladder. Grubby's going to be doing some of the same themes that we saw previously. And what were those themes? He's going to be doing a lot of aggressive chrono boosting on his gateway instead of on his warp gates, such as this one right here. He's going to be getting this early assimilator. We're going to see him using the Phoenixes in a basically intuitive fashion. There's another chrono boost. It's going to be a sentry this time. I don't mind sentry or stalker at that position. Still being pretty darn aggressive. There's our Stargate popping down. Second gateway, we always need at least 2 gateways and a robo, or 2 gateways and a third gateway to hold off a lot of scary stuff. But look at this. Grubby is just seizing control of the middle. And this probe is actually going to be moving over here and building another pylon. Very easy thing to do, as we're soon going to be having a ton of Phoenixes. I think only 1 chrono boost actually went down on this warp gate all game long. seizing control of the middle. It's what we love doing. And another thing that I didn't say last time, but wanted to mention is something to look for more and more as you're watching Phoenixing players. The lack of stalkers that we see crop up. There's really just not that many stalkers past these initial 3 that Grubby will really commit to. And hey, these Phoenixes that we always generally use to scout the opponent's base suddenly are ultra useful in these kinds of tactics. Joink. Oh, that's so kick-ass. Oh no, there's another stalker. He's trying to run away. Oh no. Well, we don't get him, but still. Something's a little bit free there. So as you're noting, because we feel so comfortable, we didn't build a 3rd gateway. Still crushing that map control like it ain't no thing. And then we can still leave our 3 stalkers in the middle. Alright, nifty. What do we see? Well, it looks like we see a whole bunch of gateway units. We see a Twilight Council going down. And again, Grubby is just going to expand. He's going to comfortably expand, begin spending a lot of his Chrono Boost on Immortals. And look at how similar of a feel this game will have. Picking off anything all around the map. Does Grubby have an observer somewhere? I feel like he made one, but I can't seem to find it. Expand going down, which I think is a very common play. And I wanted to talk a little bit at this point about some of the tactics that are absolutely perfectly fine. One of the simplest tactics to do is to go... you know what? I'm just going to call it like it is. You know what's a really easy all-in to do? Guy who just wants to win? Listen, a really easy thing to do, start building Phoenixes up to 3 or 4, maybe even 5, and then do non-stop Zealot Sentry out of 3 gateways. And then just walk up his ramp and kill him. You're guaranteed to get up his ramp because your Phoenixes waltz in, pick off all the sentries while you're just charging up from below. Very easy to pull off. Really effective. The one thing that's going to kill it is if your opponent just makes buildings at his ramp. Like builds a pylon and 2 gateways, walling it off. You know what's another really effective tactic that I saw Hongun Prime's opponents doing? And if you experiment with this, you're going to have so much fun. Oh god, you're going to have a lot of fun. If you see your opponent with a lot of stalkers, for instance, going blink stalkers, a very effective response, is to build a 2nd robotics facility and just get out 6 immortals really quickly. You can go 4 immortals, expand, and then build 2 more immortals, and it's almost impossible for your opponent to do this. You can actually just waltz up and kill it. As you're moving across the map, you have a small amount of gateway units. You can morph in 2, 3 more sentries, a couple extra zealots, and then you just move right on in with all your frickin' immortals, and what can he really do against that? This, I think, is going to be one of the crazier, nutty transitions that people will experiment with. If you go Blink Stalker and I open Phoenix, I'm going to go 2 Robo Immortal. It's a real pain in the ass. And the weird thing is that it transitions smoothly as well. One thing that I saw, again, on Hongun Prime's stream, because I've seen him receive this punishment 3 times, the opponent will go for 2 robotics facilities, get a bunch of immortals, between 4 and 8, and it's not designed to be an all-in. It's designed to shut down the opponent from expanding sometime soon. And then you know what that guy with 6 immortals does? He expands himself, plops down a robotics bay, and begins making colossi. Oh, is that not awesome? You have kind of a small gateway army, a couple sentries, a few zealots in there, and then like 6 immortals and 4 colossi. And you can always double check on what he's doing because you have these phoenixes darting around. Weird, right? Really fun, really cool. Grubby, I think, is going to do just a little bit more of an economic approach. Ah, delicious, delicious LA tap water. Reen still pinned back, still has his crazy stalker force with Blink. Not really moving out into the middle of the map. And of course, note that if he did move out, we have 2 immortals, the ability to make 3 gateway units at once. We will simply counterattack with our phoenixes, picking off a lot of probes, and still return home in time. And hell, we even have mid. So with all this wonderful time that Grubby has, what is Grubby going to do? Smart person things. I kind of like this decision by Reen to get the Forge up. I think that's quite clever. But hey, doesn't that look familiar to last game? Doesn't that look familiar? Yeah. Yes, it does. Twilight Council, a lot of gateways. What is he getting out of Twilight Council? He's going to get himself some charge. Going to get himself charge, and of course, Reen is still trying to desperately withstand this obnoxiously good harass, which has killed off 7 workers. Not that much, but still enough to freak you out. Look, we have freedom to go kill off our gold rocks. We have freedom to go kill off these back rocks. Soon enough, we have charge. And notice how few stalkers have been made. We made 3 at the start of the game. We've made 1 more stalker. And that's it. Just 1. As we're starting to get more map control, sure, we can begin building more stalkers. But until that point in time, Zealots and Templar. Oh yeah, Zeal Archon. And then we end up in a nice happy time engagement where we get force fielded in one of the worst angles possible. Don't really end up crushing the force, but we still end up winning by somewhat of a margin. And you still see this same theme. Grubby didn't win with an attack. He pushed with an attack that allowed him to get a 3rd up. And it looks like Reen has basically the equivalent production to Grubby. Grubby's actually behind on 2 gates, but he's going to go ahead and be active out of his Robo Bay. And then Grubby is going to calmly, easily, cleanly, happily establish himself control of this 3rd nexus. And then look, all defense all the time. Just with some careful positioning, some good micro, lands in a nice spot. Yay! And he wins shortly thereafter. Sorry, I have to speed it up a little bit. I want to just show one more hilarious game, and then I want to talk a little bit about some just a general thing that I really like about this style. Where is it? It's ooh, I gotta find it. I think it's against. It's a game where they both go Phoenixes. Where is it? Ah, Grubby, you sent me so many freaking games. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to look for it in the break and show it first thing after this. Then we're going to see a lost game of Grubby going Phoenixes, because that's important. But the thing I generally like quite a bit about this opening with the Phoenix play is that it helps us think of next step. It helps us make the matchup more about how you keep getting stronger as opposed to how you win right now. It's very easy to look at the old school Protoss games, or I guess I should say older school. Like something as simple as we both went 3-gate Robo, or 3-gate Blink with Observers. 3-gate Blink Observers, great build, really solid. What if we're both doing it? Well, I'm going to get a 4th gateway. I'm going to keep making Stalkers. Well, one of us expanded. Well, okay, I'm just going to go kill him. There's a lot of people that sort of work with that line of logic where, well, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just waiting for him to mess up so I kill him. And then no one's expanding, no one's teching, no one's doing interesting things. And that is the #1 thing I love about the style that we're seeing. We've seen 2 games where there were slightly different openings from the opponent, and these Phoenixes helped us secure a solid position and helped us wiggle our way forward. So what we're going to do when we come back to the break is look at a hilarious... Actually, we won't look at the hilarious game. It's basically the... No, you know what? I don't know. I'm going to go find out how long it takes. We're just going to look at some damn games. Most importantly, we're going to look at a lost game from Grubby against Sokka. I'm going to do that after the break, all right? Look, that's what we're going to do. Phoenix versus Phoenix. Yes. Coming up after this. Yeah.